from Derek and from the manager, Tom Cleverley, after 5 o'clock. Full-time score then, down on the south coast, is Portsmouth 1, Watford 0.
And greetings and welcome everyone to this brand new edition of the YOU ORNS Watford FC post-match. My name is Omar. Welcome aboard on this Easter Monday as Watford fall to their second defeat in 4 days, a 1-0 defeat at Fratton Park. This was a strange old game, and Brown Electrons on YouTube has said, another red, Omar. This one was harsh, I felt. I'll talk about that in just a moment, Brown on YouTube. But for those of you listening, this was a strange game. Watford, who I thought did nothing of any note for the first 20 minutes of this game. They were literally sleepwalking through the first 20 minutes. They didn't even have a real touch of the ball until the 19th minute of the game. And then they just didn't seem to really get a lot together. It was one shot from Imran Loser that careened off the crossbar, fourth consecutive game now, where a Watford player has struck the crossbar or the post. But the fourth consecutive game now, at least I think 3 of the last 4 Watford have lost, if not all 4 in a row, I think they've lost. Watford have, fallen down the table a bit. They're going to be 12th at the minute. But this was a strange game. In the second half, Watford played better. But then the referee, people complained about the referee in the last game, and I understand that. But the referee today got, I think, one big thing wrong, was that red card. I think the referee got it wrong. Look, I know the letter of the law says it's perhaps a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. But the bottom line is this was as soft a red card as you're going to see in any championship match this season. Kevin, who was outstanding, ends up getting sent off, really, for doing what any defender would do. If you put that anywhere else on the pitch, there's not going to be a red card for that. But I understand for the letter of the law, I think that's what the referee was getting at. But for me, that is not a red card. I mean, the referee's got to exercise a bit more discretion than that. Watford are already trailing 1-0 there. I think you've got to really look at that. I think if Watford were up 1-0, I might see why he'd give it. But when you're down 1-0, to give a card like that one, which to me is borderline at best, I think does you a tremendous disservice as a ref. And as Brown Electron says on YouTube, yeah, it was a harsh red card. Brown, I agree with you 110%. Again, I'd go by the letter of the law. You can see why the ref gave it. But I think it was just not nearly good enough to justify Kevin being sent off. Kevin was outstanding today. He was one of, I think, 4 Watford players who I thought were very, very good. Agil Selvik made the only mistake of the game, and it's his only mistake he's made since he's come to Watford. And yet, I think he was excellent. Otherwise, of course, with the mistake that you look at that led to that was really the only goal of the game, I thought Agil Selvik was excellent today. I thought he gave you a lot of great saves. He kept Watford in the game. You know, ironically, you could put him as obviously Watford lost the game, but he was the Watford's standout player. And there were a few others I'll get to in a moment. Watford fans, welcome to this edition of the YOU ORNS Watford FC post-match, both on X and YouTube. We're going to Instagram shortly. If you have any opinions about this particular match from a Watford perspective, or anything else about Watford regarding the final 2 games of the season, or anything else Watford related, please do chime in, hit the request button on X. Make your comments known on YouTube as well. Of course, Watford's final 2 games of the season. Our old friend, or maybe not for some Watford fans, Valérien Ismaël at Ewood Park. He is the manager of Blackburn. That's where we travel to on Saturday. And then the final game of the season, the following Saturday, that would be May the 3rd, at the Vic against Sheffield Wednesday, who I think came from behind today to get a win against their opponents, Middlesbrough, if I am not mistaken. Now, there are other Watford standouts today. Agil Selvik, as I've already mentioned, despite his big mistake, the only one he's made since he's been here, Selvik was excellent. I also point again to Caleb Wiley, another very strong performance from him. I thought he did a very good job there, as he has been doing very well I believe on that right side of maybe the left side. I forget which side Caleb Wiley plays on, but he's just terrific, and he has been once again the bee's knees in this game. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get it together as far as he was concerned. But as the team was concerned, but Wiley was excellent. I thought that Duoma was excellent as well. I thought he did some really good things in your midfield. Discipline, good, cool, calm head. I liked what he was bringing to our side today. Duomo has been good in the few games he's been able to play outside the injuries that have kept him out for a while. Thought he did well today. I talked about Kevin. I talked about Duomo. I talked about Selvik, despite the mistake. I thought he, again, was excellent. All of those players I mentioned were excellent. And there was one or two others, and names who escape me at the moment, who I thought did quite well during the course of this match. But collectively, we were just not good enough. We did not play the football that we needed to play. We didn't sustain the possession. We played way too deep. I thought Ciaralta was a guilty culprit in that all game long. He did that. Ryan Andrews today was not good either. I thought Ryan Andrews, listen, he has not been good for a long time. He's had his moments, but generally speaking, Ryan Andrews has been bringing up the rear for us. He has not been very good. I know he has a 3 or 4 year deal, whatever the heck it is. But Ryan Andrews today, another poor performance from him. Very disappointing. It just is a funny old one with Ryan Andrews. He had been electrifying at times during last season, played really well for the most part. This season, kind of up and down. And then this second half of the season, he has been missing in action. And I don't know why. Football is a game that's full of, it's all about mentality, all about confidence. But yet, for me, Ryan Andrews seems to have either lost that confidence or the manager has just lost trust in him. I think the only reason why Ryan Andrews has been starting is because we've had suspensions, we've had injuries. But generally speaking, Ryan Andrews has not been starting the vast majority of these contests. And so it's left to be seen now what happens in the off-season, despite the contract that Andrews has, if they're going to be reinforcements, if they're going to try to stand pat and try to bring Caleb Wiley in for a long-term deal. He's here on loan. Who knows what's going to happen? Jeremy Ngake came on, I thought, was better than he had been in the game on Friday, Good Friday, against Burnley. I thought he added a little bit more heft today in his position at right back. I didn't think he did badly. And Abankwah came in off the subs bench. Obviously, after 2 games in 4 days, you want to give some of these guys a rest. And so that's what happened today. So Abankwah came in. I thought he did ably. But look, Loser was okay. Ince wasn't too bad today. But the bottom line is that we just didn't get anything really conjured up here to put a real threat on that Portsmouth goal. I wondered why Watford waited to go 2 up top at least in the last few minutes of the game. They should have done that a long time before. Bio came in. You had Pollock playing in an advanced role, and you had Doumbia. I thought Doumbia, that's the other player I want to mention. I thought Doumbia was terrific today again. So Doumbia is the player I was trying to mention that I didn't remember, and he's the man who I thought again played well today. So look, the bottom line is that we needed to have a lot more up front earlier on in this contest. You have to risk it when you're down a man in that situation. You have to put that extra striker on, take a chance. You got nothing to lose. Portsmouth were not great today, let's be fair. Portsmouth, despite the goal, didn't offer a whole heck of a lot. They had a couple of breaks, and there was some terrific moments that they had. They just didn't execute them properly, and when they did execute them, it was a great job out of the goalkeeper, Egil Selvik. And what do you know? Against Portsmouth this season, we've had 2 red cards. Would you believe that? I'm going to read out some more comments on YouTube. 2 red cards in Portsmouth games. So I don't know what it is about Portsmouth that Watford players seem to do things. Look, the bottom line is the Kevin yellow red card to me was a little bit harsh. I mean, I can understand he was sent off, but I don't know that was don't think that's a red card. Oh, boy. The referee there, that's a ticky-tacky. I'm not trying to minimize it. Ticky-tacky yellow. That's a ticky-tacky red card for me. I know, again, I'll say it a gazillion times, by the spirit and the letter of the law, it's a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. He is in on goal. Kevin's trying to get front side of him, and Kevin wrestles him and blocks him out, and that's that. So then the referee operating, you know, sometimes the law, if you ever heard that term, the law is an ass. You know, sometimes the law is an ass or the law is an arse, right? I mean, sometimes the law, whatever discipline it's in, is a really stupid law, a bad law. There's a book I'm reading right now called Bad Law. And sometimes the law is a bad law. The way that a law is written or designed or implemented is bad. And in the case of football, this one today, at least the context of it was badly laid out. And the referee, to me, lacked the proper discretion in that particular situation, knowing the game. And the referee's no, Sam Allison's a good referee. But the referee there, to me, got it wrong. That is an example of a poor application of a law. And I think the referee, in the spirit of the law, I get it, but in the context of what was happening, he shouldn't have applied the law there. I really don't think so. And I think a lot of Watford fans would agree with me. Fellow Watford fans, I think, would agree with me on that. Bottom line is that I don't think Kevin should have been red carded there. But look, the bottom line is he's got a straight red. That means he's off for the rest of the season and to next season as well, because that's not going to get overturned. I'd be shocked if they overturn that. But we'll see. We'll see if there's an appeal of that red card. I want to promise those YouTube listeners and watchers that I want to read out the rest of your comments. And those of you on X, please hit the request button. We'll be going on for a few more minutes here on this Easter Monday. We don't fare well on Easter Monday in these games. The last 3 Easter Mondays, we have not won. We lost this game. We drew against West Bromwich Albion last year on Easter Monday when we had a 2-0 lead. And then the time before that, we drew 2-2 against Coventry when we had a 2-0 lead. And all 3 of those games were away from home in these last 3 consecutive Easter Mondays, and we've not won any of them. So there you go on that. Now, Brown Electrons on YouTube says, thought Portsmouth was street smart today. I didn't think that they were that good, but they knew how to wind us up. Yep, I would agree. Brown Electrons, I think that you are absolutely right. Portsmouth played the game, the gamesmanship game, much better than we did. Tom Cleverley talked a lot this week and last week, I should say, about being streetwise and how we lacked streetwise abilities in a number of games, including the Burnley game, including the game, I think, against Stoke or Oxford or whomever it was. But he's been on and on about that for a few weeks now. And I know Watford are a younger side and we need youth, but we also need people to learn from their mistakes. And they will, hopefully, at some point in the next few games, next 2, and maybe into next season. But Portsmouth did what teams do, time waste. They were in a masterclass of time wasting today, Portsmouth were. Can't blame them. I'm not upset at Portsmouth for doing that, because if we were in that position, up 1-0, we'd do exactly the same thing. Every team up 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, whatever the heck it is, they do exactly what Portsmouth did today. That's exactly what any team would do. We don't like it if it's against us, but if we're doing it, we love it. And that is something that we all know to be the truth. So, Brown, I completely understand. And by the way, as Brown alluded to, they know how to wind us up. You remember what happened in the game in December when we won 2-1, and then what happened with Barr getting sent off. And by the way, I don't know if people realized it at the very end of the game there, when the whistle blew at Fratton Park a few minutes ago, there was a Portsmouth player doing a very good imitation of the dance that Quadro Barr did back in December at the Vic. And he had a big grin on his face when he was doing that dance today, that Portsmouth player. So, you know, you got to be careful with these things because they do come back around. And I am a believer in karma. And but bottom line is that came right back to haunt Watford today. Look, there were some things about Watford today that I really admired. There was a good fight back in that second half. I think Portsmouth wanted to just get this thing over the line and forget about doing the fundamentals of defending. And they just lived very dangerously at times in the game in the second half. Portsmouth, they did not go for the kill. I mean, they tried a couple of moments to go for the kill. But the bottom line is Watford, with a little bit more care and precision, could have got back into this game with a man down. That would have been very impressive had they done that. But the bottom line is we're staring at in the face of a Portsmouth 1, Watford 0 defeat. I believe that's at least 3 defeats in a row, if not 4 now for us. We are finishing the season in the wrong way. I think there'll be motivation coming up Saturday against Blackburn, of course, with our former manager, Mr. Valerian Ismail, at the helm at Ewood Park. Blackburn, I think, won today as well. So, look, the bottom line is there's motivation to go around in this situation. Portsmouth did enough to get over the line. Were they deserving winners today? Well, the reason they were deserving winners is because they did everything you need to do to win the game. I mean, that sounds like a tautology, but the bottom line is Portsmouth were not great. Portsmouth were not great today. Portsmouth fans aren't going to give a rat's about that because they've got 3 points in the bank and they're probably, I think, safe in the division for another year. I think that's what you have to say about Portsmouth. The bottom line is they got the job done, and that's it. And Watford have not been able to play that kind of game enough this season. They've done it at times. They did against Hull when they beat them 1-0, got over the line, weren't great, but got over the line. But on the road, we are not good at this. We are not good at being streetwise. We're not good at being street smart. We fall into the trap. And we did it again today against the Portsmouth side that, to me, were not very impressive. There were a couple of Portsmouth players on there. Murphy, obviously, was the standout. Bishop did well. He's the one that scored the goal off the Selvik mistake. But the bottom line is, other than those 2 players, I cannot think of a Portsmouth player that really dazzled today. I can't think of one. They made some good blocks when we took some shots, but other than that, Portsmouth to me were not memorable. But again, nobody cares about how memorable a player is. All they care about is the 3 points, and so there we have it. I want to read out something from a Portsmouth fan that has come in. Loka, Pompey fan here. This is Loka on YouTube. Pompey fan here, Loka says, I'm sorry about that time wasting at the end. That must feel so frustrating for you. Hope you do well next season, and I'm delighted that we have secured our safety. Well, we have the most yellow cards this season, so those were the words of Loka on YouTube, a Portsmouth fan. Loka, thank you very much for your comments. And very generous of you, by the way, and very classy of you, Loka, to speak in the way that you have, because I'm sure that there would be some Portsmouth fans would have every right, quite frankly, to rub it in and talk about bar and all the rest of it. But that's class from you, Loka. Thank you very much indeed. Portsmouth fan there on YouTube calling and writing in. And he also adds, Murphy did well, Potts did well in midfield. You're a goalkeeper and loser. I like loser. There you go. That's an even-handed Portsmouth fan. And in football, you do not have very many even-handed fans who passionate about their team, but can also have enough of a balance in their analysis to recognize that the opposing side, whether win, lose, or draw, has good players on it. And I was able to do that. I mean, I sat here just now and I sang Mayfield. I didn't sing his praises, but I said that Murphy was very good. And I said that Bishop was a pain in the neck. And I said that, Portsmouth had some moments where they blocked a lot of shots. But generally, I didn't think as a team they played great football. And then I added, bottom line is 3 points. There's no table for did they perform well. There's no column that says performance on it in the table that we look at. Never has been. It's about the W, and it's about the L, and it's about the D, and it's about the PTS, points. And that's what it's about. Nobody cares about anything else. Portsmouth fans tonight, like Loka, are going to celebrate, and good for them. And, Portsmouth played us very tough this season. I thought Portsmouth, by the way, played better in the first game against us back in December, where they took the lead, and we came from behind with a very dubious penalty. I keep saying these things do even out. We got the benefit of a very dubious penalty that day at the Vic, and Kayembe ended up taking it, I think, or TDB, whichever one of them, and they scored. And the bottom line is that we got away with one there, and we beat them 2-1. And today, perhaps Portsmouth, well, certainly, I wouldn't say they got away with it, but certainly that decision against Kevin, for me, could have well harkened back to that penalty that should never have been given for us against the same Portsmouth side a few months ago, literally about 4 months ago exactly now. So there we go. But the bottom line is Portsmouth have won the game. Watford now have to move on I thought Watford's second half performance was better. I thought that Watford applied themselves and tried to play better football in the second half. There were moments where they were on the break where they looked very good. They passed the ball overall much quicker today, just like they did against Burnley. They're beginning to be more comfortable with that. They sat too deep in the first half. That was the issue for me, and I wish that they hadn't. But the die was cast in this game with the mistake from Selvik, and I jinxed twice. Did I jinx this Watford side today on social media? Within 10 minutes or so of each time I posted something, the opposite came back to bite me, and it happened twice in those situations. I talked about how great Selvik was, and we need to keep him on. Someone was telling me he's on a permanent. But the bottom line is that I talked about this on X, posted how Watford really need to keep him. He's been spectacular. And then literally 15 minutes later, he makes that a horrible error. But the bottom line is the only error he's made here. And listen, I still think it was the best Watford performer today because he saved a million point blank. He was terrific. It would have been 5-0 had it not been for Selvik. So you take the good with the bad and the ugly. Selvik was very good today for me. I mean, despite the mistake, Selvik is still miles better than anybody else we've got in goal at Watford. There's just no another way around it. Selvik was terrific. I'll take that all day long. Obviously not the mistake, but I'll take Selvik in goal all day. He was commanding that back line. He was getting in people's faces, really authoritative, commanding, made wise decisions, except for the mistake, obviously. Selvik's been brilliant here. I don't, one mistake in what, 4 months? I mean, my goodness me. If he makes one mistake in 3 or 4 months, I'll keep him. I'll take him. Absolutely, Selvik was terrific today. Bottom line is that we just didn't do enough in that second half. And Portsmouth did a very good job of game managing. End of story. They managed the game out. You saw Matt Ritchie, the veteran footballer there, standing there like he was conducting an orchestra in the corner. This one here. I mean, is he a conductor now? I mean, Matt Ritchie can be a conductor when his playing days are over because, and I went to the symphony recently, so I know what I'm talking about. He was waving the baton here, pointing there, pointing there, pointing over here, pointing there. I mean, he was doing that for a full minute. It's gamesmanship. Portsmouth have a right to do that. We would have done the same. I don't know if we would have conducted a symphony or conducted an orchestra, but bottom line is Matt Ritchie, the veteran footballer, knows what he's doing in that situation. So anyway, that's the bottom line on Portsmouth. Here's what Brown says, and I'll be reading out some more comments from Loka, the Portsmouth fan, who I think has been bringing up some very good level-headed points here. But Brown Electron says, I wonder, and this is a good comment from Brown, as he always does. Brown Electrons on YouTube says the following: I wonder what the higher-ups are thinking about Cleverly. Hopefully, they don't make any rash decisions. We need some serious investment in the summer. Brown, that's something that I have been speaking about at great length here, and as you know, over the last few weeks, that the summer is the key, and the predictions for me will get made based upon what happens in the summertime. It won't get made based on what's happening during a season. It's going to be based on what happens during the summertime. And that's going to be really all I can say about that. Bottom line is that we have to keep this owner honest. I'm going to continue to read out your comments, but I'm going to move to Instagram next. I want to thank those of you on X, and I want to continue the analysis that I was bringing as far as Brown Electron's comment on YouTube is concerned. But thank you for those of you on this Easter Monday on X who have been listening. It's been a pleasure to have you aboard, fellow Watford supporters. My name is Omar. On X, I will see you or hear you again on Saturday at Ewood Park, where Watford travel to face Blackburn Rovers and their old manager, of course, our old friend Valerian Ismail. That is it for now on X. We'll continue here on YouTube and go to Instagram land in a short moment on this Easter Monday. And until then, the final score was Portsmouth 1, Watford 0. And until Saturday, I'm Omar saying, you ORNS. Take care, those of you on X, and have a great rest of your Easter Monday. So that is it on X. We continue here on YouTube, and I want to continue talking about what Brown Electrons has posted his comment about Cleverly and the higher ups, and his wondering about how their approach is going to be on Tom Cleverly. And this is something that I've been very concerned about, because I do think that this owner might end up doing something, I think, to get rid of Tom Cleverly while we're not paying attention to it. So I think it really then becomes very incumbent upon us as Watford supporters to continue to put pressure on this owner, because I do think that he is good for, in quotes, good for a sacking of Tom Cleverly after the season is over or during the summer. I think there's a very good I won't say a very good chance. I think that there is a 60%, 40% chance that Tom Cleverly's gone at the end of this season. And I told you that he would last through the end of this season. I told you that back in August, that Tom Cleverly would last an entire season without being sacked, and he will do that. Of course, it got dicey there in January and February, when there was all kinds of cockamamie statements coming out of the Watford press room, and really poorly worded statements. And but a lot of us as Watford supporters put a lot of pressure on the board, on the owner, and obviously that registered because Tom Cleverly got the backing and he got these nice words from the ownership, from Gino personally. But I listen, those words in January and February and early March, don't mean much if you're sacking him in June or July. And listen, I hope he doesn't get sacked. But we have to continue to make our voices heard as Watford fans. I think it's very important that we absolutely do make ourselves heard. I mean, it's imperative that we do. I really do believe that, because if we sit back and go on our Butlins trip and not do anything about this, and not at least make our voices heard and protest peacefully and make our voices heard, you can see a scenario where he ditches Tom Cleverly after the season's over or during the off season. And I think if he does it, it won't be after the final game of the season against Sheffield Wednesday. It will probably be sometime in June or July, where he decides that he wants to do something different. I totally think that's going to happen. I think it's very possible. I'll up it to 65%, to 65-35 that Tom Cleverly's gone. I mean, the thing is, I think, Brown, it would be really irrational, and it wouldn't be the first time that the owners made an irrational decision. But the bottom line is, they've got a better position in the table at present. They have a better points total than they did last season. We had a 17-game unbeaten streak at the Vic, stretching back to last season. I mean, the players are buying into what Tom Cleverly is selling. There have been some good moments this season, not great. The Est have been inconsistent, but you've seen some players emerge, the Dromos of the world, the Banquas of the world, the Kevin Kebbins of the world, the Bars of the world, the Dumbias of the world, the Caleb Wileys of the world. They've all emerged. And I don't think that the owner should meddle and muck about with this. I don't think he should muck about with this at all. I really don't think he should. But that is not going to stop him from doing so. Brown, I do take your point, and we do need some serious investment. It remains to be seen whether this owner is ever going to do that. And when you say serious investment, Brown, on YouTube, one thing I would say is they need wise investment. Wise investment. With all the money situations and all of this and all of that, the investments must be serious, but those serious investments must be wise, must be careful, must be smart investments. Make smart investments. One of the smart investments is keeping Tom Cleverly. That's one of them. You need continuity. You need a degree of stability. And you need a manager who understands the club, understands the town, understands the fan base, and has really been key to bringing together the fan base and the players and vice versa, and knitted everybody together. That's how you do it. Holly on Instagram, hello to you. Welcome to this edition of You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live. I'm doing that right now. We're also on YouTube Live as well. continuing with reading your comments out on YouTube after this one. By the way, Holly was at the game today. At least she told me and told us that she would be at Fratton Park today. So, Holly, I'm sorry that if you did go to the game, I'm sorry that you have to travel back with such a disappointing result, considering the fact that we had a couple of things in that game that just didn't go right. Selvic's mistake, who's been brilliant, by the way, Selvic, as I've said, and of course that red card that I really think was very, very soft, very unfortunate red card. Man, we've had players sent off in a number of games, 3 red cards in the last 2 games. We've had at least 5 games in which a Watford player has been sent off, and 2 of those 5 games were 2 games against Portsmouth. I mean, what's the odds of that? It doesn't happen too often where you have Watford players sent off in both games against the same opposition. But let me go back to the comments around what Brown mentioned, and this question I want to platform off of what he said on YouTube about investment. The investment has to be wise. It has to be serious, but it must be wise investment. It just has to be. You have to absolutely do that. And what you need to also do is identify players who have a good head on their shoulders, because what we have now are players who just don't know what they're doing out there. Thank you, Tracy, for joining. Hello there to you, Tracy, on Instagram. Nice to have you aboard on this Easter Monday. A very good Easter Monday to you, Tracy, and to everybody watching on both YouTube and on Instagram. Holly says, speaking of which, on Instagram, what a load of crap. Lack of discipline, Holly says. Lack of discipline again. Let's be honest. What the F, and she uses the 4-letter word, was the lineup and the subs. Embarrassing. Just upset. That's all. That is Holly on Instagram speaking. She was at the game. Jack Boddington from Down Under. Nice to see you again. Hello to you there in Perth in Western Australia. Nice to have you aboard there. And thank you, Tracy, for your comment as well. This question, and Sahil, thank you for joining us here on Instagram as well. This question of investment is absolutely critical. And as I was saying, 3 words on the beach, says Jack Boddington. And I know he's not talking about Perth. I know there might be a beach or 2 in Perth, Jack. And I know that the weather there is awfully warm, typically warmer there than it is in a lot of other places in Australia, unless you go further north where it gets really hot up there in places like Darwin in northern Australia. But yeah, on the beach, I tell you what, Jack, the first 20 minutes, they definitely were. Watford were on the beach. First 20 minutes, Watford were nowhere to be seen in the game. It was 79% possession at one point for Portsmouth in the first 20 minutes. Hi, Omar, says Sahil. Again, we didn't create much, says Sahil. There's no guile in this team. Even with injuries, I still expected more. Thank you, Sahil, for your comments. And yes, Omar, yes, he corrected that. Thank you for the correction as well. Omar is the name, and Watford is my game. But this Watford side today, losing has been their game. We've now lost 20 games this season in the Championship. 20 games. That's a lot of games. Holly says, on the beach, cashing in their money. Play the academy team, please. Yeah, at this point, Holly, that might not be a bad idea. I've been calling for them to go younger and play these lads from the academy a lot more and make them the majority of the team. And I know Watford's a younger team and they're transitioning, but you can't go worse by playing academy players, can you? You surely cannot get worse than what we've seen in some of these games here the last few weeks and months for that matter. Excuse me. At least what you'd see, Holly, is a lot more fight and a lot more guile and a lot more guts. You know, it's a shame Messiah Edwards didn't get on the pitch today. He was named to the bench. I would like to see what he could have done in this contest, unless I missed him being subbed in. But the bottom line is that, look, this question of investment is critical. The Portsmouth fan, the resident Portsmouth fan in the building on YouTube, Loca, who's been saying some very nice things about us, by the way. And I'll give Loca a lot of credit for that. It shows you some class from a Portsmouth fan. Loca said, he says here, I think it'd be wise for you to keep Cleverly at least for next season. That's a Portsmouth fan speaking. If he starts badly next season, then you can start thinking about axing him. However, from what I know, your board have sacked quite a few managers harshly. Yes, Loka, the Portsmouth fan on YouTube, you are absolutely right. And not only have they sacked quite a few managers harshly, they have done this for years. It's been ever since he's got here that's been happening. It's been like something like 20 managers in the time that he's been here, if not more. I'm not kidding. And in the Italian footballing game, in Italian football, this is something that happens all the time. It really does. I'm not kidding. In Italy, it's not unheard of for teams to have 3 managers in the season, and few of the fan base in Serie A blinks an eye. I kid you not. And so, what you're seeing from the Pozzo family, who are from Italy, they've been, and they have a team. Of course, Udinese in that Serie A is a continuation of something that happens in the Italian footballing game. It does. AM Corsten, thank you for joining us there. On Instagram world, pleasure to have you aboard. Your comments are welcome. Everyone's comments are welcome here on Watford. We even got a Portsmouth fan, Loka, who is very kind to be quite gracious despite the fact that his team won today. He showed a bit of class, which is really good from a Portsmouth fan. Thank you, Loka, with your comments there. Brown Electron says, it's Sack Central down here. Philip Mason on YouTube says, Klebs has done a good job with the weak squad, but 3 or 4 first teamers set to leave this summer. Recruitment is vital, but with 3 or 4 first teamers set to leave. Yeah, I agree. Recruitment is vital. This is what we're all talking about now. The question of investment, recruitment, wise decision-making is going to be the difference for us as far as I am concerned where Watford go for next season. Philip Mason adds, Gino has to realize that to buy decent players, he needs to spend some money, says Philip Mason. Those last 3 words in capital letters. And I agree, Philip. Thank you, Philip, for your comments on YouTube. The investment angle is key. Look, fans of Watford like you and like me, big time supporters of Watford like you and like me, have got to keep on the back of this owner this summer. And now is the time to do this, is to continue to let it be known to the owner that we want Klebs, right? That we want some real recruitment this summer, and we want some serious investment and wise investment. We need to be sending that message right now to this owner. And it has to be persistent, consistent, and continuous. Same thing as the word persistent. We have to send a continuous message to this owner that he must invest wisely, sensibly, and seriously as far as Watford are concerned. And he must keep Tom Cleverley in the building. There's no way around it. Tom Cleverley has got to be the manager next season. And we all need to not drop the ball on that, because we have been very good this season. There have been some organized groups of Watford fans online who also have been doing a lot of work with this, the back Tom movement, if you will, the Portsmouth movement, but I call it the back Tom movement. He's got to stay another season. The man had a very good record at the end of last season. He had done some good things that showed you an upward trend. Played better football under him last season, dated back to last season. He had the 17 unbeaten at the Vic. Watford had played well. They were in the top 6 for much of the first half of the season. And then they are finishing now roughly in the top half of the table. They finished 15th last season with 55 points. We've got 56 now. There's so many reasons why you'd keep Cleverley here. And we need to be talking like that to the owner on social media, at the Vic. The last game of the season, it needs to happen. I just think it needs to happen. People need to be vocal. People need to be peaceful. People need to be thoughtful. People need to be persistent. Send a message in that final home game. Back Tom Cleverley. And keep him here. Make wise investments. It's so important that there's money spent wisely, sensibly, seriously, and that the head coach is here. And a head coach named Tom Cleverley, not some new head coach, not some flashy, splashy name. I don't want, let's say, and it would never happen, of course, but I wouldn't want Pep Guardiola here. I would not want Carlo Ancelotti here. I wouldn't want Vincent Company here or Patrick Vieira here or anybody. But none of those matter. Thomas Tuchel, the England coach, and I know there are a lot of English fans do not want him as England head coach. I don't want anyone at the Vic except for Tom Cleverley. But the bottom line is you've got to keep him here. You can spend money, but you've got to keep the manager here because he has absolutely done a very good job with a squad that's non-existent, with a squad that Gino Pozzo has not done anything with. You cannot have a squad that's non-existent, a manager who's now made them above average, have them in the top half of the table, have them in the top 6 for much of the first 3 months of the season, and then you're going to sack the manager? But then you're not going to invest wisely and smartly and seriously on who you bring in the summer? Come on. We cannot afford, fellow Watford fans, we simply cannot afford yet another disappointing and slumbering off-season. This owner has been on the beach in the summer transfer market for a number of years now. And yeah, there might be one or two names that we go, oh, that's not bad. But usually not nearly enough invested, not nearly enough invested on the back line, not nearly enough invested in midfield. I mean, he always disappoints you. Always disappoints you in the summer. It's that season of the year, summer's coming, another couple of months from now, another month and a half, whatever it is, 2 months from now when the summer comes, June the 21st, right? That's when the summer solstice is. It's exactly 2 months from today. What is this owner going to be doing? You, says Joe Larkin, and that was a while ago now. Thank you. Nice to see you, Joe. Sahil said earlier, the issue is the Potters don't want to invest. So what are we as fans expecting next season? We want promotion, but we need the players. Thank you, Sahil, for the comment. You made that comment a little while ago. I need to be reading out your Instagram comments as well. Thank you there, Sahil, for that. The issue is we will be losing our best players. Will we reinvest in players? Yep, that's a very important point that Sahil makes on Instagram. Will we reinvest in players? We're going to be losing a load of players, like it or not. We're going to. Georgie's not going to be here. And quite frankly, I don't mind if Georgie moves on. I never thought I'd say that, but I do think that Georgie has probably pushed as much as he can on this squad and in this team. He lacks the end product. I saw Vata today. I thought Vata was also good today. I mentioned him earlier. Vata did a little bit of what Georgie did and does. And I thought that Vata was pretty darn good at it today. Take your pick. I mean, he's not play exactly the same position as Georgie does, obviously, but he was doing a lot of the ball carrying at times today. And at least Rocco Vata's got some end product. And he's younger. Listen, Rocco Vata to me was good today. I know people were making excuses about him, and a few weeks ago against Oxford, oh, he's sick and he's frail and he's there. Well, he didn't look like that today. Obviously, he's recovered from that because he looks blooming good today. Joe Larkin, another poor performance again today. Yep, Joe, second half we were better, but the first half just wouldn't do, would it? First half we were poor today. It's the Jekyll and Watford show. Every time out, Joe, we have a first half that might be good and a second half that's poor, or a first half that's poor and a second half that's better. That is Watford FC to a T. We cannot get two good halves of football. There's probably been 3 games this season where we've actually achieved that, and all 3 of them were in wins. Surprise, surprise. 3 red cards in 2 games as well. That's really poor. And Joe, your point's well taken. It speaks to the discipline. And this is what Tracy, who made these comments a few minutes ago, says. I know I have spoken about discipline, but even the strongest would surely lose it when they are losing, and then the opposition really stop you from playing. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, Tracy, on Instagram. There's a lot of frustration, and I understand exactly what you're saying. These footballers are human beings like we all are. Obviously, that goes without saying. And so, yes, it's a human reaction. When everything's against you, you saw some frustration out there on the pitch again today with Imran Louza. pushing someone over or shoving someone or kicking the ball away or whatever it was he did. You saw that with some fouls, and you could see the frustration. Yeah, Watford, bottom line, yeah, it's a tough thing, but the discipline is still required, especially on the road. I think, Tracy, I think that the discipline has been sorely lacking. You, as you said, you've spoken to that a lot during the course of this season. Um, you really don't have too many Watford players who you can look at and say, okay, which one of these players is going to keep his cool? Loser's not one of them. Kayembe isn't one of them. Sissoko isn't one of them, right? Anyone else? Any more for any more? I can't think of too many Watford players who aren't going to be losing their cool. We need to have players who recognize that the professionalism is the most important thing. And I know it's very hard to do, as you said, Tracy, when people are needling you. But these players have to bear down, and they've got to be more professional and more disciplined than they've been over these last few games. It's a rough situation. Bankwa's been sent off as well, and a Bankwa, in Bar's been sent off as well. You can't think of any Watford players who have the cool head. A Bankwa, I think, is trying to calm down a bit. But, he's been sent off as well, and he's had some moments where he's gone in on a really hard challenge and a hard tackle. He's a throwback of Banquet, but he's got to remember to harness all of that. And as this Watford side gets younger, that's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be a steep one for a number of players. And Kevin learned that today. Kevin learned that today. And again, it was an unjustified red card in my view. The bottom line is, as a young player like that, Kevin has to realize the fine margins of these games. And there's referees who are going to be frustrating. And this referee is normally a good referee, but he made a mistake there today. Sam Allison's a decent referee, and he's one of the very few decent referees in the English game. He's been around for a little while. He did a lot of fourth official work and linesman work, and now he's finally getting his feet wet over the last, I think, couple of seasons as a referee, and he's come along pretty well. He's reffed 3 games for Watford, and this is the first one in which he made a mistake where I'm going, oh no, ref, he really screwed that one up. But otherwise, he's pretty good as a ref. But today, not his finest day. That should again, I know the letter of the law, but you've got to look at the situation that's happened there. That was not enough for me for a red card, even with a denial of a goal scoring opportunity. Really, he just gets in front of him again, and maybe the player puts himself into Kevin, and then you're giving him a red for that. I mean, boy, that's a really rough spot. That's a rough spot. It really is. That's just ridiculous. But anyway, it's happened. The game's over. That sticks in my craw. But the game is over, so you can't do anything about it unless they somehow appeal it. But I don't see that being overturned. It's all about what the referee's discretion is at that moment, and the referee just did not use his discretion at all. Anyway, Tracy, thank you for your comment. Sahil says, poor disciplinary record the last couple of games. And yeah, Sahil, I agree. That speaks to the discipline. So Sahil on Instagram says that about the poor. It has been very poor. 3 red cards in 2 games. 2 of them from veteran footballers. And today's one was ticky-tack, as I said a million times, and as many other Watford fans would agree. A real ticky-tack red card there. Kevin's season's done. He's not going to play another game for Watford this season. That's a straight red. That's a 3-match ban. Hopefully that's not the last of Kevin. He's been very good in the defense. When he first came into the defense, Watford had 2 consecutive clean sheets, and I think they went nearly 3 games without conceding when Kevin straight came in there, because I think there was 3 straight clean sheets. Kevin's been good for Watford, but if he can stay on the pitch and if he's healthy, which he's not been in either situation for much of the season when he came in. Tracy says, loser. Okay, game management, I know, but still annoying. Yep, it is still annoying. It is a frustrating thing. We as Watford fans have every right to be annoyed about this, and it is game management, but it is very annoying. And as I've said, as Tracy knows this and everyone else knows this, when you win in the game, you love this kind of game, this game management, time wasting, gamesmanship. But when you're losing the game, you absolutely hate it and it's annoying. And this is where we are. And so Portsmouth are going to do that. And until the FA and the EFL and the PGMOL get together and say, right, we're going to now book you for time. Well, they do book people for time wasting. We're now going to give you a red card if you take more than 15 seconds or 20 seconds, more than 20 seconds to orchestrate a free kick. And we're going to send off one of your players, and the opposition have a right to pick which one. I mean, something draconian like that. Until that very draconian thing happens, time wasting is here to stay. Let's face it, the time wasting is going to be here, and I don't like it either. And Tracy knows this. I don't like Tracy. I don't like this either. None of us likes it when it's being done to us. If we're doing it, if we're up 1-0 at the Vic or at Fratton Park, and we'd be doing it, and we'd love it, and that's just the way it goes. It is annoying, but if we were to get a win, or I don't want to predict anything. I've jinxed everything today. Dick jinxed it twice. I don't want to jinx anything else. But let's say we're in at Ewood Park on Saturday against Valerian Ishmael and Blackburn, and we happen to be in a good position. Let me put it that way. You don't think that we're gonna? I mean, I'm saying this to everyone now. You don't think that we're gonna try to time waste? It's gonna happen. I empathize though with you, Tracy, on this, and because it is frustrating to watch and it is annoying to watch, and it seems and quite frankly, when it's being done against you, it feels like the people doing it against you are being very childish and immature. But there we are. There we are. Next season, says Sahil on Instagram, and I'll read your YouTube comments out in a moment, I promise. Next season, says Sahil, is simple. It is down to the Potsos. If they want to go up, they need to invest in the squad. Sahil, I agree with you. It's simple maths, isn't it, Sahil? It's simple maths. Yeah, I mean, what goes up must come down, and you only get out what you put in. It's simple. If you put in a squad, really substandard players, and you don't invest in them, that's what you're going to get at the end of the season. A squad that's in 12th or 13th place, right? I predicted 8th from this. I can't hesitate to keep telling you. Last July, I picked this team to finish 8th. They're now what, 12th or 13th? If you don't invest in your squad, this is where they're going to finish. Sahil, absolutely. You only get out what you put in. That's simple maths. Right? It's simple mathematics. 1 + 1 = 2. Still does and always will. So if Gino Pozzo wants to F around, he's going to find out when next April, if he doesn't invest, he's going to see the same table position. He's going to see the same table position. That is your goal, to want to be a 12th or 13th place club in the championship. If that's your goal as owner, if that's your goal as an owner, well, have at it. Then you're a very happy camper right now. If that's your model, to invest in a really substandard way so that you can finish in 12th or 13th, you finished 15th last season, then for you, Gino, I presume that would be a success. But for the vast majority of Watford supporters on this planet, we want a whole lot more ambition than what you're showing us. A whole lot more ambition. We cannot afford to continue to be fair to middling. And if Tom Cleverley can put a squad out there that has not been backed, that has not been fortified appreciably enough, and still get what he got out of them for much of this season, imagine what he could get out of a squad that was actually really good. Imagine what he could get out of that squad. Just think about it. If this owner had the inclination to want to do something, then we could actually have a season where we are actually in the playoffs. We could be a Bristol City. Bristol City is going to make it in the playoffs. We could be a Sunderland. Sunderland's been awful the last 2 months, by the way, but they're going to, because they were so good for the first half of the season, they did so much so well that they can be really poor as they've been and still comfortably in the playoffs. We could be a Sunderland, for God's sakes. Excuse me for blaspheming here on Easter Monday. We could have been there, but we're not a Sunderland. We're a Watford, and we love that, right? But what we don't love is an owner who's been mediocre these last few months, last few years. Let me read out the rest of your comments on Instagram. Sahil says that will show if we don't, then we know what their ambition is. Yeah, that speaks to the point I'm making around the Potsos, and you've added to that, Sahil. Thank you. Max Walters joins us. Thank you. Tracy says, responding earlier to my comment, you're right. Of course we would do it. We certainly would, Tracy, as you point out, and as I've said as well. We'd love it. We'd absolutely, Tracy, we'd love it. You know that. We would absolutely love it if they did it. You know, last game of the season at the Vic against the Owls of Sheffield Wednesday. You know very well. We all know very well that we would cheer it on. We'd do an Ole. We'd be doing the Oles. We'd be doing. We will have a banker or somebody doing push-ups, press-ups, right? Before he or Imran Loser doing press-ups on the corner flag before he takes the corner kick. I mean, anyway, Dan Atkins, hello. Welcome, Dan. Good to see you again. It's been a while, mate. Hope you're all right. Disgraceful once again, says Dan. Yeah, Dan's okay. Dan, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Dan the Man Atkins on the case here on Instagram Live. Thank you, Dan, for the comment. Yeah, disgraceful once again is right. Disgraceful in many ways, Dan. Disgraceful performance in the first half in particular. Very poor goalkeeper makes a disgraceful mistake. Although, again, I really don't want to get on Selvik too much, really, because Selvik's been excellent. He was excellent in the game despite the mistake. And it's the first mistake he's made since he got here. So, unfortunately, it was the only goal of the game, and it led, and that was the only goal of the game. But the bottom line is that he has been excellent still through and through. And if it wasn't for Selvik today, we would have lost 5-0 to this lot. 5-0 we would have lost. How many saves did Selvik make in this game? Point blank range, great saves all over the place. And blimey, really, he is blooming good. He's a very good goalkeeper. Yeah, he made the mistake. And people are going to make mistakes like we all do. Every day we make a mistake, right? Gino Pozzo's made plenty of them. I shouldn't be joking about it because it's not funny. Gino Pozzo's made a minute. Anyway, I don't even want to go down. I've had enough. I've wasted enough currency on the owner of this club in terms of the last few minutes of me going on, yapping and ranting and raving about what this man must do. Because listen, a lot of us want him out. I count myself among them. But the bottom line is, you always have to ask who's coming in after him. Who would you want in here? Someone who's responsible with his finances and is transparent is one answer I would give right off the top. But the bottom line is, this man is the steward of the club. And while he's here, we have to put the pressure on him to do the right thing. Listen, it must be peaceful protest. It must be vocalized. It must be nothing at being nasty, but being firm about getting in investment in this club, recruiting sensibly, getting in financial investment that's smart and prudent and serious, that you're showing the fan base that you have a serious commitment to putting out a product on the field that's going to compete for the playoffs. Because I don't think we should be looking at promotion at all. I think we should be looking for playoffs. Now, that might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm really not. There is an upward trajectory here, right? Last season, poor. Finished 15th with 55 points, with a manager that really began to stabilize them. This season, better. Frustrating season, but a good season, because you saw the improvement in this team, but you saw the inconsistency, and the inconsistency is the frustration. And, of course, the lack of investment is the biggest frustration of all. But the club is still moving in an upward direction. This first team, I should say, this men's first team, moving up into the right direction, right? So now the next portion should be more recruitment, serious investment now to get us to a point where we're competing for playoffs so that our campaign next season can be built around attacking that top six. We don't have to be in the top six for the first 3 months of the season like we were. We can just be hovering around outside there, eighth, ninth, pushing around that area. And then that final third of the season, make that charge for the playoffs. Add a couple in January to bolster that. That's how you recruit wisely, man. I mean, the key, though, is the summer. We all know that as Watford supporters. The key is the summertime. And if we cannot get that investment in the summer, I don't care what it is in January, because as I said a million times, January is really a corrective to the summer. January transfer market is really a corrective to the summer, or a corrective in light of any injuries, God forbid, that would happen between September and January. That's what January is. January isn't, for the vast majority of clubs, a make or break time, a go for it time, right? Not really. For most clubs, January is a very defensive minded approach. Okay, let's put one in here. We need another defender here. This one's been injured. He's out for the year. We need one here. That's what January is for the vast majority of clubs. We're not Liverpool. We're not City. We're not Arsenal, right? We're not them kind of clubs who can go and add a piece or two, and then they're off to the races to win a Premier League. And Liverpool are going to do that in the next, 10 days, next week or so, next few days. We're not Liverpool, right? But we need to have smart, wise recruitment, please. And I asked this question. I'm going to read all your comments. I promise you. I'm going to get to YouTube next, because there's a number of you on YouTube who I really want to read the comments out for. But here's what I want to say before I get to the YouTube comments and your Instagram. So hold tight, Instagrammers as well. Fellow Watford supporters, thank you so very much for being with me here on this Easter Monday here, live from San Francisco, California, where the sun is out, which is a good thing. We like sun being out here in California. It is Easter Monday, and welcome aboard the You ORNS post-match on both Instagram and on YouTube. But I want to get to this. This is really key for me. We must keep Tom Cleverley. That's the first piece of investing you've got to do. Before you do anything else, lock down the head coach in here. Tom Cleverley has so much goodwill with this Watford fan base. He's got goodwill for years. Even if he lost 5 in a row, 6 in a row, he still has goodwill. Now, there's the occasional Watford fan on social media, and sometimes there's a whole lot of bots and trolls, obviously, on social media. So sometimes it's people just giving you a wind up who aren't really Watford fans, or who are just bots or whatever. But this man could lose 5 in a row, mate. He's got so much goodwill here. The fans love him. Most Watford fans. There's some Watford fans who remember near the beginning of this season, when they were still in the top 7, were calling for him to go. Right? Now, that's just silly nonsense. That's just silly talk, right? But there were fans on social media who were calling for him to go when they ran into a struggle or two in the first 2 or 3 months. But the bottom line is, before you invest anywhere, the biggest investment that they arguably have to make is keeping Tom Cleverley in fold, right? Keep him in the fold. Keep him on side. Keep Tom Cleverley sweet. Keep him in. You have to. And then you build from there, because there's so much goodwill. The players can recruit. They basically can recruit because they know that Clevs is good. Clevs has been good. They love him. You saw how many times when we won games, they were lifting Cleverley on their shoulders like he just won the Premier League title for us. You can't get rid of that now. By the way, George Kike, we were not very good today. We were better in the second half. I'll say that for you on Instagram. We were not very good today. We had good moments in the second half, but not nearly enough. First half, we were dreadful. We were awful for most of that first half. I'm going to read the YouTube comments because there's a load of them now. Thank you very much for your patience on YouTube. And here we go here. Philip Mason says, I suspect that there are some US investors out there who would be interested in Watford FC, but Gino's price is inevitably too high. Yeah, I think that's very true, Philip, on YouTube. I do think you're right, Philip. I think we talked about this, you and I, or maybe someone else. Maybe it was Philip Crouch, because there's at least 2 Philips who come in on YouTube. And we talked about this recently, whether it was you or whether it was the other Philip or someone else, that the asking price is very prohibitive. The asking price is very prohibitive, and there is debt, and there is that's going to be included. The going valuation for this club, you know, there's a lot of different facets. There's a lot of things going on. And I don't know where you're going to get that. They've been trying to get U.S. investors. There have been meetings with U.S. investors, but they've not really come out or panned out to anything, Philip. And so that's something that I think we've got to keep our eyes on. If we could get like a Fenway Sports Group that comes in, boy, if we could, I mean, it's not going to happen like that, but if we could get an American investor like them come in for Watford, it would really, I think, would be a good thing. Now, they would have to keep the structure. They would have to keep those kinds of things in place. But of course, once an owner comes in and owns a club, that owner can do whatever they see fit, right? And look what Fenway Sports Group has done with Liverpool. Look what they've done there. You got LeBron James as a part owner as well. He has a minority stake in the club, but he's a part owner on Liverpool. Look at what Fenway Sports Group has done since the Fenway Sport. And I get it. Liverpool is a different universe, different solar system than us. But I'm just saying, from an operative standpoint, the ownership at Liverpool, look what they've done. Nothing but success since they've come in. Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues. They're going to get that one coming up in a few days. Cups, they won this cup, that cup, every cup. I mean, but Fenway Sports Group have done it right. We need an owner to come in here and do it right. Do the right things. Not to quote Spike Lee's movie, right? But do the right thing and absolutely invest wisely. Anyway, let me read out the rest of your comments. Philip, thank you for yours on YouTube. Appreciate that. Let me read the rest of yours on YouTube. Brown Electron says, I'm not that hot on Vata now. Earlier, I was talking about Rocco Vata, and I thought Vata played well today. I thought he was very serviceable. I thought that he was energetic. I thought that he had his moments today. I also thought that he provided the live wire spirit that we needed, especially in the first half of the game. And I thought he does, at least today, a bit of what Georgie does. And I thought sometimes better than what Georgie does. And I know it's a different position than Georgie plays, but at least I think Vata has some end product that I don't think Georgie has, really. But Brown Electron says this, I'm not that hot on Vata. His tracking back and decision-making are lacking. Good going forward, though. That's a fair comment, Brown. I mean, I don't think I can disagree with that. I mean, the only place we disagree is that I think a bit more highly of him than perhaps you do. But yeah, he has to track back more. That is very true of Vata. He doesn't do enough of that kind of dirty work that other players on the side, like Bio, who is, he's going to be gone, and we'll see him go. And I don't think too many Watford fans will miss him. But Vata needs to do more of that, and that's part of the game he needs to develop. And I do agree with you there, Brown, and I think that will develop if he does stay and if Tom Cleverley stays. Richard Lees says, and he is good going forward. Yes, absolutely on that. Thank you very much, Brown, for your comment. Richard Lees, hello there, Richard, says on YouTube, if we don't invest in the summer, we could end up really struggling, fighting relegation next season. Another red card. What are your thoughts, Omar? Richard, my thoughts are these. I mentioned these before you came in. This red card was unjustified to me. I thought the referee, and he's refed at least 3 Watford games this season. This is the first one of those where he made a real mistake, got it wrong. And I know from the spirit of the law why he gave the red card, because it is technically speaking a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, because he does get in front of him and he does deny the player who has no one else as last man. He's got no one else behind him there. But the bottom line is, the manner, the content of what the red card was given for is simply not enough. It's simply not enough. I've seen Premier League refs not give those. So it's a completely discretionary, arbitrary thing, Richard. It's completely arbitrary, right? You could have a situation like that where I've seen them not given in the Prem for much worse than this one. So the championship referee, Sam Allison, again, he's a good referee. He's not been bad, put it this way. Net compared to all the other ones, he's actually, which is not necessarily saying very much, but he's actually been, for the most part, again, I've seen 3 of his games with Watford when he's refed us. This is the first one where he got it wrong. You can't give a red card in that situation, not on the content of what the denial of the goal scoring opportunity was. Again, I understand the spirit of the law, but as I said earlier, before you came in, some laws are badly written. And I think this one, not so much, let me kind of amend what I said earlier. It's not so much that this particular law was badly written, it was the facts in front of the referee that he got wrong. The facts were that Kevin came back in front of the player, slightly obstructed him. The player made a meal of it. And then the referee goes, right, denial of a goal scoring opportunity. Why not just give him a free kick on the edge of the box? I think that would have been much more what you should have done. Give a free kick for obstruction. But no, he didn't do that. Referee went way the other way, right, off. And I'm like, what? You send him off for that? What did he do? And then you go look back at the replay. It's very, very soft. It's a very, very soft red card. It's really poor. And he's going to miss 3 games unless they get that rescinded. And they're not going to get that rescinded because those kinds of red cards are discretionary. The ones that get rescinded usually are ones for violent conduct. If there's retroactive, they look back and go, oh, no, that really isn't harsh. That's when but when you're talking about something like a denial of a goal scoring, that stuff very rarely gets rescinded. And it's a shame. Kevin's going to miss 3 games for this into next season as well, because there's only 2 more after this. He's going to miss 3 games for this. I think that's very harsh. And we'll see if they get it overturned. I hope they do, Richard. But my thoughts are, I understand what the letter of the law is, and the referee, I can understand why he gives it with the letter of the law. But the bottom line is the law, and particularly the facts in front of the referee, were not justifiable in giving this red card. So for me, understand what the referee's doing because he's reacting to the spirit of the law. But the facts in front of the referee and the facts in front of the rest of us as Watford supporters are very clear. That is not enough to fit the pattern of denial of a goal. That's not nearly enough. I'm sorry. He's defending his position. Doesn't he have a right to defend his position? Doesn't he have a right to get back into position? It's not like he's come from a long way back and he's the last man and he takes him out and he does a tackle to take him out and he misses everything. That's different. That's a clear, obvious denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. But this thing here was not. Even if he is last man, are you kidding me? So there, Richard, you got my whole spiel again about the red card. Not for me in the final analysis, a red card. That's way too soft. It's like a soft red light. You know, you turn on a red light and you can have a bright red light or you can have a soft red light. And then you buy the bulb that's soft red or a soft white, soft red light. That is a soft red light red card. That's really soft. So there you go, Richard. That's my comment on that today. Thank you, Rich, for your comment. Brown continues on YouTube because I got a load of those to read. I'll go back to Instagram as well. Brown says, I know Georgie's end product hasn't been great, but I think relying on Vata as a replacement is a considerable downgrade. That is the comment of Brown. Do you agree with that? I don't know, Brown. He's younger than Georgie. I know Georgie's an international. So is Rocco Vata. Vata's younger. Vata is much more willing to engage a shot on goal. I think Vata is more versatile. He can play up the middle. He can play left. You can probably put him on the right side as well. And I think you can make him an attacking midfielder. I think Vata's got much more flexibility than Georgie does. So I can hear what you're saying, Brown. I think and you said it's a considerable downgrade. Maybe you're right about that. Maybe you are right about that. But I tell you what, I think long-term it's not. I'll tell you why. A, because of his age. I think he's only 19 or 20. B, because I think his game still has to grow some more. I don't think Georgie necessarily has his game has to put it this way. Georgie's technical ability, I think that needs to grow a bit. I don't know that his football is going to grow that much more, but I think there's way more upside to that as a 19 or 20-year-old, way more upside. And I think in the long term, I would say it's not a downgrade at all. Not in the long term. This guy is going to get better, and he's going to take more shots on goal. If he scored 4 goals for Watford this season, I think Vata 3, 4, 5 goals. I don't know. I don't know. And Georgie scored 2, and both of them were in the early part of the season. I just think that, listen, Georgie's an exceptional player. I'm not here slating Georgie. My problem with Georgie is he's too one-dimensional. And I think he's not adjusted to that, Brown, because I think a lot of defenses in the English Football League and the Championship have adjusted to him, and they've been able to make him a one-trick pony. And I don't think the manager has diversified his game. And I'm not going to shouldn't blame Tom Cleverley here. The player has to adjust back. I don't care what sport it is, whether it's the NFL in American football here, whether it's the NBA, which I'm sure you're watching. If you're an NBA fan, you've seen some of these playoff games over the last couple of days. Wow. Some of these games have been quite incredible. But the bottom line is that I honestly think that you have to adjust in all these sports when they figure out which way you're going to go, whether you're going to go left, to dribble right in the NBA, and the defenses make the adjustment. You've got to adjust back. And my beloved New York Knicks are playing tonight, and I wish them well. Hopefully they will take care of business in game number 2 against Detroit at Madison Square Garden in New York City later on tonight. But once the defense has made an adjustment, you've got to make an adjustment back as a player. I don't care what sport it is. And Georgie's not done that. And they found him out. And so that's why. So for me, and Georgie's terrific on the international level. He's much better on the international level. I just think that his game needs to grow technically better. The technical part is the end product that needs to improve, because it's been shambolic, let's be fair. But Vata, his upside is way bigger, way larger. He has an upside that is very promising. His ability to improve is going to be a lot better. I'm not saying he's a better footballer than Georgie, because that's just not true, right? I'm not sitting here on Instagram or YouTube suggesting or even hinting that Vata is a better footballer than Georgie. He's not. All I'm saying is that I think there's a bigger upside to Vata, and I'm saying that Vata does some things well, and he does some things better than Georgie does. Some things. He's a better ball carrier. I think he's much more aggressive on the goal, and he's going to give a shot. Now, I get it. He's a different position player than Georgie, so I'm not going to discount that, because obviously he's in a different position on the pitch than Georgie is, right? But I think Vata is a much more versatile player. I think you could put Vata in that Georgie role, and I think he'd do pretty well with it. Yes, the problem with Vata is he doesn't track back. He needs to develop that part of his game much better. The bottom line is, I think he is a much more of a threat than Georgie is. I mean, I know Georgie does the incredible 60-yard runs, but I'm telling you, defenses find out about that, and he's not been able to readjust his game. I think Vata can adapt. I think Vata can be a player. He's a good assist man. He's got, 5 or 6 assists this season, Vata does. This guy is a good talent, Vata. I believe in him. I guess I'm higher on him than you are. But I hear your point, Brown. It's a fair point to make, because, again, Georgie's a better footballer. I agree with you, Brown. I mean, he's a better footballer than Vata. And nobody in these fora who's watching this now can say that Vata's a better footballer than Georgie. It's just not true. He's not. Georgie is a better footballer, and he's a more complete footballer. I just think that Vata has got a bigger upside. I think he's a more versatile footballer than Georgie, and I think he's much more aggressive at goal. And I know he's more of a forward player on the left side, but you can put Vata anywhere on that pitch. I think you could even put him as a holding midfielder, for God's sakes. And that's pretty crazy for me to say that. And you might disagree with that vehemently. But the guy can play anywhere on the pitch. I think Abankwah was the same way. You can put James Abankwah on that forward line. You could put him anywhere. He loves to go forward. He's a ball carrier like Vata. He can go forward as a wing back. He's a ball carrier, and he's pretty blooming good at it. He puts a good cross in. I mean, you can either one of them two players does the same kinds of things in similar scenarios. But Georgie, I think, is going to be gone. It won't be good to see Georgie go. I'd be very sorry to see Georgie leave, but inevitably he's probably going to go. I'll be happy if he stays. But I think if he stays, he's got to adapt his game a bit more and be a bit more versatile. Make the adjustments. And these defenses in the championship just laugh now. They clamp down on Georgie. They force him to give up the ball. And then he's got one of two decisions to make. Either give up the ball or go for goal. And his end product ain't good. I'm not trying to bash Georgie into the ground here. I think I'm looking at the future of this Watford squad, fellow Watford supporter. And I'm looking at long term. Yes, the immediate focus is obviously the summer and next season, but long term. And I know they've got Georgie here for 4 or 5 years, but I don't think he's staying. Long term, who would you rather have? Vata or Georgie? I really pipe in on that because I've got to read out all your comments. I've got more to read. Who would you? I'll go for the next 15 minutes on this, and then we'll end this one on this Easter Monday. 15 more minutes, I promise, and then we'll end it for the day. Georgia or Vati for the Vati. Georgie or Georgia or Vati. Georgie or Vata. For the long term, which of them would you rather have? I would love to read those comments out. All right, let me read the rest of yours on YouTube. We'll go back on Instagram in just a moment's time. Loka, who is a real Portsmouth fan who has been very generous with his comments today. Thank you, Loka, for your comments. And well done to your team. They are going to obviously be safe. Not well done on the win. Well, I mean, good for you. You got the win. But well done for your team being safe. Listen, Portsmouth got over the line. And look, in the end, deserved to win the game. Let's be fair. Watford were not good enough in the first half. Portsmouth has some dangerous players, the Murphys of the world, the Bishops of the world. They got some good defenders. They made some good blocks, kept Watford honest on a number of occasions as well. But look, the bottom line is Portsmouth, I've seen Portsmouth play better. They played better against us back in December. But the bottom line is they lost the game, a game they probably shouldn't have lost because they had a 1-0 lead in it. And today, again, we should not have had a man sent off in. So there we go. But Loka says this. Yeah, I remember that dribbling past Williams, the Pompey defender, and sending a shot drastically wide when he had options to pass. He looks like a good talent, but his intelligence and decision-making, my God, I can't even read today. He looks like a good talent, Loka, the Portsmouth fan says of Vata, but his intelligence and decision-making could be improved. Yeah, I think that's fair. The bottom line is he's a young lad. He's going to improve, which is why I think the upside is with him. He needs to track back. That part of his game needs to develop. But yes, there was a shot where he hit one way wide. Andrews did the same thing. He did a way, way wide shot. But yes, Loka, I do agree there on what you say. Philip Mason, I agree that Cleves has the respect of most fans and players, but the continuous poor first half performances and lack of intensity is due to him. So too, I'm a bit confused, says Philip Mason. Confused on the likes of Tom Cleverley. That's the first Watford fan I've seen here on this forum addressing this. I'm going to read more comments. I might find more Watford fans who agree with that sentiment, that Cleves, perhaps, he's wondering about Cleves, is Philip Mason on YouTube. Are you wondering about Cleves? Do you want him back here next season? I certainly do. I mean, I think that's beyond the question. But, there's some Watford fans perhaps a little bit skeptical of Tom Cleverley and if he should return. That's another topic of conversation here for these next 15 minutes, the final 15 minutes before I say adios on both Instagram and on YouTube. However, you would know more than me as it's your club. No, I think, Loki, it's a fair point to make about Vata. I think Vata is very good in a lot of instances. There are some things he can improve on, like I've said, in terms of tracking back. He does give it a real go. Vata offers a much more of a threat. He's good on that left side. He can switch to the middle. He can play up the middle if you really want him to in a pinch, and he can also play on the right side, but mostly he is really the left-sided player. His passing is normally good. He's made some mistakes in his passing throughout the season, but there have been times where his passing has been often quite good. His ability to put a shot in, he might win goal of the season for his goal at Fulham in the FA Cup back in January. But we'll see about that. Goal of the season from a Watford perspective, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to improve as far as that is concerned. But I still would definitely pick him in for the long haul over Georgie. Now that will be a comment that will be disagreed with at times, I'm sure, but that's fine. We all have our views on this, including yours truly. D Francis. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I get to D Francis, I'm going to get to Matt, and I'll read out your Instagram comments as well. Matt says Cleverly needs to stay. He's got nothing but the utmost respect from me. He's shown us what he can do when things are not going right for the club and what needs to be changed and how quick to do it. That's Matt's vote of endorsement and a vote of confidence for Tom Cleverly. That means that makes two of us. Matt, as far as Klebs is concerned. D. Francis says this may be a controversial take, but I do also question whether Cleverly is tactically good enough too. So there we go. That's two people now on YouTube, Watford supporters, who are now skeptical about Tom Cleverly and whether he should be staying on as a Watford manager. Philip Mason said earlier he was a little confused, and the poor first half performance, as Philip Mason pointed to, is down to Tom Cleverly as well. That's what Philip has said on YouTube. And now we've got D. Francis saying something about the tactical abilities of Tom Cleverly. Some of these lackluster performances are on him as well as the players. That's the second one. So D. Francis and Philip Mason are in simpatico as far as Tom Cleverly and these poor performances in some of these halves of football, a lot of these halves of football. And so they're not calling for him to be sacked. Now, to be clear, neither of those two supporters that I read out, Philip and D. Francis, neither of them are calling for him to go. They are just expressing some skepticism about Tom Cleverly and wondering out loud, are his tactics right? And they've outright, at least one of them has outright said he's got the tactics wrong, and that the poor performances are also on his shoulders as well as the players. So that's the first two fans I've seen on here expressing some real skepticism and some concern, at least, about Tom. They're not calling for him to go, but they are saying that there are some issues with the tactics, and I agree. There's been one or two games I've been looking sideways at Tom Cleverly, thinking he's got the tactics wrong. I have criticized him about the subs on 3 or 4 occasions. Today could be another one. He brought on these subs late in a bid to go up top heavy with the strikers. And look, you got to go for broke when that situation. He waited late to do that. But I am not calling for him to be sacked. Matt is calling for him to stay, and 100% Matt, I'm with you there. But right now, that's 2-2 as far as Watford supporters on here on YouTube who have said, two people have said we want Cleves to stay. The other two have said not so much they want to go, but they're just asking some questions about Tom Cleverly. Nothing wrong with posing questions about him. And if you do think he should leave, be bold enough and honest enough to say it. Because as I told you earlier, back in September and October, you had Watford fans, you had a few, very, very small few, it should be said, on X going, oh, yeah, Cleves needs to go. In October? Really? November? Really? But now that the season's practically over with the 2 more games we've got, it's fair to raise the question. And that's why I'm asking, should he stay? I think he should. My opinion is very clear on that. Matt on YouTube is very clear on him staying as well. These are the things we've got to look at, because I think the most important investment is keeping him here next season. I think the most important investment, I know what his contract is about a year and a half, whatever the heck it is. The most important investment that Watford, this owner, can make is to start by keeping Cleves here. That's where I stand. But after that, you've got to spend wise, you've got to be smart, you've got to make sensible, serious investments on this men's first team. Identify what your goals are, because if you think the goal is mid-table, if that's what the owner's goal is, then he's been a wonderful success these last 2 seasons. But if your goal is playoffs. It should be promotion, but I think you got to actually with the club as it is, with the squad as it is, the next level is playoffs. You can overshoot the runway if you want and go, okay, promotion, fine, go for the gold. But if you want promotion next season, you got to spend like you want it. You got to spend like you want promotion. That's what you have to do. If you want playoffs next season, you got to spend like it then. The gauntlet is down. Don't give Daniel Backman all this ridiculous contract money or this ridiculous amount of years. And he wasn't even on the bench today, by the way. He's not going to. Is he going to play the final game of the season? I'll be shocked if he does. He's not going to play at Blackburn. Selvic's going to play, right? Backman's been healthy for a month at least. At least. And he's not played any of the games. I think it's time for the front office to admit that giving him all them extra years was a mistake. But the other question now is Tom Cleverley. I want him to stay. He should stay. I am concerned that the owner might sack him. And that's why I think we as Watford fans have to keep the heat on the owner. Be very vocal. I'm not saying, I definitely don't endorse being nasty. I endorse being vocal. I endorse being passionate. I endorse being peaceful. And I think we have to send a peaceful but persistent and very vocal message that the owner must keep Tom Cleverley on. Now, there are some fans who've expressed some skepticism about Tom Cleverley. And Tom Cleverley is not above criticism. I've criticized him on a number of occasions this season. But the question becomes, do you want him back next season? Do you want him back? And again, the players, I've talked about this many times, and certainly last time out on this post-match. I want a Banquet here next season. I want Selvik here next season. Barr, I want Wiley. Caleb Wiley's proven to be really good. I like what he's doing. And also Dumbia. Those are the first 5 Watford players I'd bring back before anyone else, even loser. The first 5: Dumbia, Selvik, Abankwah, Wiley, and oh crikey, what was the last one? Dumbia, Selvik, Wiley, Abankwah. Dumbia, Wiley, Selvik, Abankwah. Wiley, Dumbia, Abankwah, Selvik. Who's the 5th one I'm missing? It's incredible. I can't believe I've drawn a blank. 5 players: Dumbia, Wiley, Abankwah, Selvik, Barr. Thank you. Barr. Just thought about it. Barr. Those are the 5. Those are the first 5 Watford players that are walking back in, if I had anything to do with it. The first 5. The first 5. Barr, Dumbia, Wiley, Selvik, Abankwah. They're the first 5. Now, after that, have at it. So Sissoko would not be on my list. I know he's got an extra year in his contract. Ince, I'd probably bring back before I bring back Sissoko, by the way. I know that might sound strange. And I would definitely bring back Pollock, even though Pollock's really gone. I think the second half of the season, Pollock has not been nearly as good. Loser, I'd bring back as well. Right? So that's what, 7 or 8 players. Then who are the rest? Right? Bio's gone. Morris has been hiding. Morris has only played 1 game in the last maybe 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 there, Brown Electrons. He was on the team sheet today. He was on the bench today, Brown, but he never came into the game. Morris is probably going to be shown the exit too. That's another player that I would show the exit to. Tom Cleverley has not featured him really, as I've said, but I need to keep reading out your comments. But Brown, thank you for the comment there. Brown says, "Yeah, I don't hate him. He's speaking of Cleverley. I just think a lot of us Watford severely overrate him. Hence, I'm sorry, Vatter. This is Brown Electrons on YouTube talking about Vatter. This is earlier in the comments that Brown talked about this a bit earlier. Yeah, I don't hate Vatter. I just think a lot of us Watford severely overrate him, hence why Cleverly has dropped him a few times. I'll be here next season too, so we'll see how he gets on. Yeah, good stuff there, Brown. Good job there, Brown, on what you're saying. And Matt has chimed in on Vata for the long term. I'd have Vata for the long term. He's one of those players that I feel can adapt on the pitch because he's still a young player that still has a long way to go and a lot to learn. That is going to be the You Orns fan comment of the day. Well done there, Matt. I agree with you. Not just because I agree with you, it's really because I think that your analysis of this is very sensible. You painted the picture that I think makes a lot of sense, and I've been saying that he's got a lot more upside. He's got a lot to learn. That's a player who, in about 3 seasons, will really, even maybe even less than that, is going to be real gold for you. While Georgie, while I think he can improve, I think there's just 1 or 2 areas he needs to improve in. And one of them is really the function of what he's doing now, which is the end product, which he needs to really get better on. I think there's so much more upside to that. But thank you, Matt, for your comment. I appreciate it. D. Francis, Cleverly should stay for now. So this is D. Francis, who was a little bit skeptical earlier, talked about some of the tactics and maybe the performances that he's got to be responsible for. And I agree, D. Francis, that Clevs ultimately has to shoulder the responsibility for the poor performances, not just the players alone. But here, D. Francis says Cleverly should stay for now. That's what D. Francis says on YouTube. For now. He's earned himself more time, says D. Francis. And D. Francis continues. But we'll see how we get on next season. Yep, that's fair. So D. Francis, who had some issues, was concerned about the fact that the tactics have been a little bit dubious, and that he definitely has to be responsible for some of those poor performances. Does want him to stay for next season. Does want him to stay for now. For now, he says. That's D. Francis. So nobody's calling for Cleverly to go. Not on these 4 here. At least me. Now there's lots of other Watford 4 out there in forums and fora, I should say. That's the proper pluralization of forum. There are lots of Watford 4 out there. And sure, you get a varied range of opinion, I'm sure. As far I know you would, because I've seen some of the stuff going on online and offline, but particularly online, actually, mostly all of it, almost. And the bottom line is that I've not seen too many lately calling for Cleverly to go. Brown Alexis, personally, I think it's harsh on Cleverly. A lot of his best players are out injured or injured. I agree he could improve his subs and even mixing up the tactics. This is Brown Electrons on YouTube. But overall, I think he's had a 7 out of 10 season. I think that's a very good comment there, Brown, as well. It's a fair comment. As I said, Cleverly's got so much goodwill. He's done a very good job this season, but he does need to be held accountable for when they're not doing things right. And he has taken that on the chin at times. Sometimes I don't think he has. I just think that I think 7 out of 10 is fair. I think it's fair. I'm going to drink from my cup here. I think 7 out of 10 is fair, Brown. I really do. I would give him a B+ overall. If you want to do a letter grading, I'll give him a mark of B+. That'd be my mark for Clevs, which is roughly about 7 out of 10, I think. Anyway, biggest gripe for Tom was persisting with Bio and Backman early on. Yep. I think the other biggest gripe, Brown, in addition to what you've just said about Bio and Backman, is the loyalty factor. He's too loyal at times, loyal to a fault for some of these players. Backman, he played with Backman, so that's part of that. The other biggest gripe for me about Tom, I'll add to what you've said, is the substitution patterns. Sometimes the subs, he waits too long, Brown, to sub these players on and off. And I think that happened a bit today. It happened against Oxford. We lost 1-0 in that game, or 2-0, or whatever the hell it was. Oxford 1-0. Was it Oxford 1-0? Doesn't matter. They lost to Oxford anyway. But the bottom line is it might have been 2-0. Bottom line is that in that game, he took forever to bring on the subs, bring on Vata, and he did, but it was after that Watford went behind in the game. And it's like I was telling him for 20 minutes on X, not that he can hear me or see me, but I just tell him, bring on Vata, bring him on. And he didn't until after the goal and until after the sending off of a Banquo in that game. So that's my issue there with Clevs as well. Is the sendings, is the substitution patterns can be a little bit off at times. But there we go about that. That's it on the YouTube front. I'm going to read your comments here before getting ready to go. Finley, hello to you. Finley O'Boyle says hello. Love the chant, says Trace. This is from a while ago. You been all right away, mate? Yeah, I've been away, mate. Yeah. Dan Atkins there with the comments. Wanted a break from hearing Watford stuff. Too depressing, says Dan Atkins. Yeah, because I had been asking earlier, a good deal earlier, because I've only just got to reading his comments now, about Dan Atkins on Instagram, and he had not been in the building here lately, but he wanted to take a good, well-earned mental health break. I'm not trying to trivialize mental health issues at all, or mental health, or wanting to. I'm not implying anything about Dan's mental health, but you do want to take a break from some of this stuff, and it is good to get away from social media, including yours truly. At times, really, you can't be on this stuff all the time, and I've learned that too. You got to take a break from it, and when your team isn't going well, you definitely want to take a break from it sometimes. But thank you, Dan, for the comment. Jack Davies has joined us as well from earlier. Hello. We not good enough. We are not good enough, Jack Davies is saying, and be lucky next season to stay up. Wow, that's a comment I didn't expect to see. No, lucky next season to stay up. Wow. Okay. I hear you, Jack. Based on what you've seen these last few games, I can understand that. I think the real marker, Jack Davies on Instagram, is going to be whether or not this owner invests. If the owner does what he's been doing the last few seasons, I could definitely say that you might well be right. But I'm gonna, before I give my prediction, and I know you're not giving a prediction, it's just your view on where you see this team. I guess it is a prediction of sorts, but it's a preliminary prediction because, of course, we don't know what's happened yet in the summer transfer market, and we have to wait and see on that. But that view might be the prevailing view, Jack. Your view might well be the prevailing view of a lot of Watford fans if the owner does not spend. This is why many Watford fans at the beginning of this season were going, nope, we're going to be in a relegation scrap, because they were looking at how little the owner did. But I was very much on this team, and I was very high on Tom Cleverley, because I thought that even though the ownership didn't do nearly enough like this past last summer, I thought that Tom Cleverley being there, based on what he had done, even in those few games at the end of last season, to me was enough encouragement to believe that he could actually, when he was given the full-time job, could actually push this team up the table. And he has done that. So, I predicted 8th. They're in 12th, 13th. And so as a result of that, that's where I made the prediction that I made. Now, Watford at the moment, if you look at Watford now, we're looking at, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. We're in 12th place. We lost 3 in a row. Got to get a win at Ewood Park. Blackburn are a funny old team. I told you they are absolutely a team that doesn't have the stuffing in it, but they ended up getting a win today. They're 3rd in a row. Blackburn is so peculiar. They've won 18, drawn 8, and lost 18. That's just such a bizarre. I mean, they're so bizarre, Blackburn. In a big spot, they do not handle it. But they've somehow managed to win 3 games in a row under Val Ishmael. So look, that's better than what he was able to do with us. But bottom line is that's where we are, right? We're in 12th place at the minute. And, that lot up the road, they're still in the bottom 3, even though they've won 2 in a row. Derby County, thank you for winning your game today, because you lost to this lot the other day, and they've won today, the Derby, and that's why that lot up the road is still in the bottom 3. I hope they stay in the bottom 3, and I still think they will. That was a win at home today against a Bristol City side. That's a pretty impressive job. I hate to say that. Bristol City lose a game for the first time in 5. So there you go there. But look, the bottom line is Leeds are on 94. Burnley are on 94 right now. They are currently leading against Sheffield United in their game, I think, at the moment. Burnley are taking on Sheffield United. It's a very important game there at the top of the table, and they are leading 2-1 right now over Sheffield United. I've got these comments to read out, and I've got to read them. Just got to read these comments. Let me just do that now. As far as YouTube and Instagram are concerned, unrelated, says Brown on YouTube. But are you going to watch Eubanks versus Ben next week, Omar? Well, thank you for reminding me about that, because I forgot the other boxing match that you asked me to watch, or you recommended me to watch. I completely forgot after I went off the air here a few weeks ago, but I will definitely watch that one. That one is a really, really good fight. Eubanks Jr. against Ben. Oh boy, that's going to be very good. I will watch that one for sure. I'm going to make a note of it this time and write it down so I don't forget. But thank you, Brown, for that. Brown says, I'm still recovering from Val Ball. Eh? Yeah, and I was a fan of Val Ishmael until I wasn't, But the bottom line is that that will be an interesting reunion of sorts coming up on Saturday. On Instagram, here we go. Finley O'Boyle says, I think we would be pushing playoffs if we didn't have key injuries like Georgie and Barr. Finley, thank you for that comment on Instagram. I think you're well correct on that one. I agree with you 100%. I only think that I think overall, though, Finley, the consistency of our team, we are consistently inconsistent. In other words, we're an inconsistent team. Even when we had Georgie and Barr in the side, we were very inconsistent. But I still agree with you that we would still be pushing playoffs, because I think that their talents would be good enough to get us in that position. And we started to lose games shortly thereafter a lot. Even when they were in the side, we were losing games around Christmas time. That Christmas time to New Year's period absolutely killed us, Finley. Let's be fair. I mean, that period of time from the time we lost to Burnley, 2-1, to the time we got to around early February, we were done for. That's where we lost any ambition for playoffs, was that 2-month stretch where we were not playing any football at all worth our salt, and we'd lost a million games after the 17 unbeaten at the Vic. Then we couldn't win a game at the Vic, and then we suddenly lost every game we played at the Vic. That's really what hurt us tremendously. George says, hi. Hello, George. Hello to you and welcome. George, were we any good today? I think I'd mentioned that before. Jimmy Jams, hello to you. Vata would be the one that Dan Atkins stays with in the long term over Georgie. Thank you for that. You odds, to be honest, says Holly on YouTube, not feeling good about Klebs at this point. There's the third Watford fan that we've had on who is skeptical of Klebs, and Holly outright says it. I'm not feeling good about Klebs at this point. That's the first Watford fan, Holly is, who has explicitly said she's not feeling good about Klebs at this point. We have Watford fans who are going to speak their minds, and I like that. And I'm one of them, and Holly's one of them as well. She does that in abundance and does it really with a great deal of passion, and she makes a lot of points that I agree with. I don't know that I wouldn't say well, listen, that I can't say I disagree, because that's her personal view. So I'm not saying I disagree. She's not feeling good about Klebs. So I can't agree or disagree with that. That's her personal feeling, and she's entitled to it. I do feel good about Tom Cleverley. I have some reservations about the substitution patterns and some of the tactics, but generally speaking, for the long run, Tom Cleverley is going to be a better manager and a better fit for this club than a number of other managers that I can think of off the top of my head. But it's fair to raise the points that Holly and others have been making tonight, is that, whether you're not feeling good about him, or whether you're not liking his substitutions or his tactics, or whether you're not liking the performances, he's got to take a hit for that. You got to be fair about that. He's got to take the hit with that. When he takes the glory, when they're winning the games, they have the 17-match unbeaten run, you got to take the hit as well when you're losing 3 in a row. fair. That fair is fair, but I am not an advocate of sacking him, and I'm not saying that Holly is, but I'll have to read the rest of the comments. Maybe there'll be a comment there from Holly or someone else that says he's got to go. I don't think he ever has to go. At least, certainly not off the back of this season. Was it disappointing? Was it frustrating? Yes. Was the season a good one? I say the season's been a good season. Could it have been better? Yes. Did we have a load of injuries? Yes. Did referees stiff us? Yes. Did we have a lack of discipline this season? Yes. But it's still been a good season. We improved our point total. We improved our standing. Still got 2 games to go. Had the 17-match unbeaten run. Have a development of players who are showing up, coming good, like a Ball, like a Vata, right? A Banquet's coming here on loans, been very Selvig's been very good. I don't see how is it not a good season? It's a good season because they've improved. We didn't make playoffs, but how do you look at this season? I think it's a good season. It's not a great season. It's been disappointing, but it's been good. It's been an improvement. Didn't make the playoffs, but we didn't get relegated. How many people in here back in August of last year were picking relegation and 6-pointers and relegation scraps? A lot of people were. And by that measure, it's a good season for Watford. Not a great season. It's been disappointing. It's been aggravating. It's been frustrating. This owner sat on his hands. But even with all of that, Tom Cleverley brought them into the top half of the table. 2 games to go. If they finished 11th or 12th now, I'll take that. I predicted 8th. I'll still take 12th. Won't be happy with that, but I still say it's a good season. Maybe people will agree or not with that, but that's where I stand. Holly, thank you for your comment. Appreciate that. It's quite sad, Holly says, reflecting on Tom Cleverley and the season. It's quite sad that these are the words of a dedicated Watford supporter like Holly. She's been supporting the club, she said, for 20 years at least. And that's what she's saying. And I dare say there are other Watford fans that might make the very same assessment that Holly has made. To be honest, the subs were quite embarrassing. Why bring Vata off? That was Holly earlier in this chat. Thank you, Holly, for all of your comments. I think is that awkward 18? J4K, that's awkward 18 joining us. Hello there to you. Boy, I've really gone through the runway, haven't I, on this? I said about 20 more minutes. It's almost been another hour since. But Mark Avery on YouTube, meanwhile, says, stick with the manager, will come good. I agree, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for your comment on YouTube. I agree with you, Mark. I think he will. The owner has got to stick with this manager. I agree. I've been saying that all season long. I predicted he would stay for the whole season without being sacked. Now the issue is, will he get through the summer without being sacked? That's the issue. That's the issue. Because the minute our heads turned, this owner will do some shenanigan like that and we'll sack him. And I tell you, it will happen during the summer. If we're not looking around and if we're not focusing on this owner will turn around and sack Tom Cleverley. And I think that will be a really poor thing to do. You have to see that there's an upward trajectory here. Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs this season, but they're moving in the right direction. Now, if Tom Cleverley did this whole season and they finished lower, I can see the owner has a good case there. But this is an upward trajectory. They finished 15th last season. They're 11th or 12th now. I mean, my God, I don't know why you'd turn around and sack him. The Vic's a better place to be this season. The fans are into it. The players and the fans are bonding. I don't know why you turn around now. I mean, I don't know about why Gino does a lot of the things he's been doing the last few years, but why would you turn around now and sack him? Really? Even with the poor substitute, even with the concerns that Holly has and some of the other Watford supporters here have, you'd sack him? Really? Holly's not calling for that at this moment, and nor are the others who have commented, like D. Francis and Brown and Matt, who is solidly in Cleverley's corner, as I am. I'm totally with Tom Cleverley staying. The owner has got to stand pat and keep that manager here and start investing with some smart. Make some smart. My God, when's the last time these lot made a smart bringing in Selvig proved to be a good move. But really, when have they made a solid? Oh my God, I could go on for another hour about that. I'm not even going to go there. I'll go to the top of the hour, right? 5 more minutes. Excuse me, 5 more minutes, all right? And then you can do the rest of your Easter Sunday. Do whatever with it that you will. The sun is really shining out here. I think I've got to get outside, quite frankly. But no, this is really important, though, about the investments have to, obviously, that's the key. Really will be key for next season. And Brown says, I predicted 18th. See, most Watford supporters were probably in your boat there, Brown. Loads of Watford supporters predicted that there'd be a bottom 6 situation. And Brown's honest enough to admit that he picked him 18th, to pick them to finish 18th at the beginning of the season. That was his prediction. I predicted 8th. He predicted 18th. Most Watford fans did not have them in the top half of the table. I'm one of the few Watford fans. I can't find anyone that picked him 8th. I picked that in July after the summer, during the summer transfer market, when they didn't do a lot. But I thought the most important thing was keeping Tom Cleverley. That's what it was. Once they named him as the permanent manager when the season was still going on last season, back in May, I thought that was a very, very important move. Because of what I'd seen in those final few games, even if we didn't win all of them or even half of them, they kept clean sheets. They began to have an identity about them last few games of the last season. And I thought Tom Cleverley was just the manager to do it. And that's why off of that, even though there was a really terrible, I thought very poor summer investment, I thought that Tom Cleverley would be a major difference. And he's proven to be, even though he's got his flaws. He's proven to be the difference. He's the one that's made a very poor squad, no investment squad, a 12th place outfit. That's good managing, even with the things that we have some issues about with Clevs. Owner doesn't give any investment, but he's managed with an underinvested squad to get him to 11th or 12th, had him in the top 6 for 3 months. How are you not bringing that man back now? See, that's the thing. That's why we have to stay on this with Clevs. Even if we might have, some of us might be skeptical about some things, and Holly's talked about how she's not got a good feeling about him, not been feeling good about Clevs at this point. It's an honest assessment. Those are our honest feelings about that. As a committed supporter of this club, Holly's been very, very clear of where she stands, and she is not feeling good about him. Now, the question becomes, is Gino feeling good about him? Because it's one thing for us as Watford supporters to have that view. It's quite another when it's the owner of the club. Because if Gino's not feeling good about Tom Cleverley, he's not going to be here. You've got a Watford fan like Holly who is never shy about giving her opinion, and that's good, right? We need more of those kinds of fans spearheading the charge here. But it's really the owner. If the owner feels the same way about Tom Cleverley that Holly does, he's not going to be here. Cleverley will not be here if that's the case. If Gino Pozzo is sitting here now on Easter Monday saying, you know what, I'm not feeling good about Tom Cleverley, he is not going to survive the summer. Once June 30th is here, he'll be gone. If that's what Gino Pozzo's thinking now on April 21st on Easter Sunday night. Let's be fair. That's exactly what would happen. Meerkat London has joined us on this final minute or so of the You ORNS post-match extra on YouTube, on Instagram, and of course, You ORNS post-match on YouTube. You can watch this back if you wish. It's been almost 2 hours. But look, the bottom line is thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'm going to read out your last comments here. Bring them on now because it's got about a minute to go. Matt says, I've been fed up with the Pozzos, with the Pozzo ever since he's been making our stadium doors feel like a revolving hotel door for the managers with the amount of sackings he's done since he's been there. Yep. Matt, thank you for the comment. A lot of Watford fans echo exactly what you've said. He had some good days the first 5 years or so, but the next 5 plus have not been very good. Yes, there was a promotion in there. You can't forget that. But he has not done enough to bolster the fortunes of this Watford men's first team. He just hasn't. Okay. We all know this. We all know that's the truth. We know about the money situation and the debt reductions and all the rest of it that he's trying to do and that he's been doing. Bottom line is that he's not done enough. We all look back to 2019 after Manchester City, and I was in the building at Wembley when it happened. Manchester City destroyed us in the FA Cup final, and this owner sat back and didn't invest. And what happened? Javi Gracia was out the door. Later on in that same calendar year, Quique Sanchez Flores was out the door, and then Nigel Pearson was out the door, and then we went down. That season, that end of 2019 season, when we went to the FA Cup and there was really no investment, that was the turning point. Gerard De La Fea, who never played again for us after the horrible injury he suffered against Liverpool that we won in that game, he was gone. All these players were gone, and that was it. That's where Watford's fortunes went as an owner who didn't do anything to really keep or do something to invest in new talent or new players. He really didn't do enough, not even close. And as a result, here we are. Mediocre in the championship. That you get what you pay for or don't pay for, right? And Gino now has obviously learned that lesson or not. Mark Avery says 3 good signings and we will be up there. I hope so, Mark. It depends on what those good signings are. I will start to make my assessment about next season with my predictions once we get to July or thereabouts, or in just before August. You will see me on here making predictions. I predicted 8th last time around on various fora in July and in early August before the season began. And right now they were barking around there a lot this season, but they're now fallen. You can see they've fallen way past that now in 11th and 12th. So they're still in the neighborhood. But the bottom line is, it turns out that I'm going to be probably closer than a lot of Watford fans are to predicting where this team is going to end up with 2 games to go. They could still theoretically finish 8th. But bottom line is that, look, they are going to be a mid-table side going into the off season. Thank you, Mark, for your optimism and your comments as well. Thank you, everyone, for your comments here. We are now past 7 o'clock in the evening in the United Kingdom on this Easter Monday, and things are just getting revved up here as we get toward the afternoon, edging toward the afternoon, toward lunchtime here in San Francisco, California. It's been an utmost pleasure to have you aboard, fellow Watford supporters, today with all your comments. Thank you so very much indeed. It's a pleasure to have you. Really appreciate your continuing loyalty. Thank you for coming to this forum. My name is Omar. It is a great pleasure once again, as I say, to have you as fellow Watford supporters on after this very disappointing result once again. Portsmouth 1, Watford 0 was the final score. Kevin getting sent off really should not have been, as far as I'm concerned. Egil Hasovic, excellent again today, but he made one mistake. The only mistake he's made since he's come through here at Vicarage Road as a goalkeeper to give Portsmouth all 3 points. That is it for this edition of You ORNS Extra on Instagram and You ORNS Watford FC post-match on YouTube. My name is Omar again, and until Saturday at Ewood Park against Blackburn and our old friend Val Ishmael, you ORNS. Take care, be well, and enjoy the rest of your Easter Monday. See you on Saturday. Take care now.